Hey guys, it's Dominique here. Welcome to the webinar. So we're going to get started here in a few minutes. I know some people that wanted to listen in are finishing up on a call, so I'm just going to give it a few minutes here before we get started. So just hang tight. Make sure that you have both a pen and paper. I'm going to be taking notes on screen. I know I say this every time, but I do. So I'm going to be taking notes on screen, so you're going to be able to actually, take away value from this webinar. All right? I'm just checking to make sure. I had some technical difficulties last time, so I'm making sure that I can hear myself. So if you hear an echo, it's going to be me on my phone. Technical difficulties last time, so I'm making sure that, okay, I can hear myself. So we'll get started here in the next couple minutes. I hope you guys are excited. Got a lot of great value tonight. Okay. Awesome. Get started here in another 2 minutes. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to get started in a couple minutes here, just letting a few viewers pop on because I know that some of the people that wanted to hop on were actually finishing up a conference call. So I just wanted to give it a couple extra minutes here, but we will get started, and I'm not going to keep you guys all night, I promise. Make sure that you have a pen and paper handy because I'm going to be taking notes on screen, so you will be able to take value away from this and be able to apply it to your everyday life and to your everyday budget if you know what today's webinar is about. If for some reason throughout this webinar you cannot hear me, shoot me a message on Facebook, or if you have my cell phone number, shoot me a text. I have my phone sitting right here, okay? So I'll be able to hear that. So I did have some technical difficulties last time. All right, one more minute. Now I'm gonna get started. So if you don't already have a pen and paper out, make sure you go grab it, or if you take notes on your phone. I personally write faster than I type, so I would say get a pen and paper because we're gonna take some really good notes tonight, all right? And this webinar is being recorded, so if you have another thing that you have to go do, then you can definitely go and do that, and I'll be posting the recording. You are viewing this on YouTube, so make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube, all right? And if you're getting some really good value from this webinar as well, make sure that you comment underneath and let me know, all right? I need to play some music. Not right now, but next time. All right, guys. Let's get started. So, welcome to the webinar, all right? I'm really excited about this series that I'm doing because I feel, and if you've seen my previous webinars, you already know, but, I feel the education system is really lacking in educating people about real life situations when it comes to finances. They don't teach you about, what a checking account is, how to save money. They don't teach you anything when it comes to money, all right? But we learn all that other stuff that, I don't really remember ever using anything I learned in science. Like, I really don't. And I'm not sure how you guys feel. I'm sure you feel the same, unless if you're in the science industry. Anyway, so this week, I'm really excited, okay, because we're going to be talking about budgeting. And this is something that personally I struggled with for so long, okay? I thought the whole time that I was budgeting the right way, when in reality I wasn't. And it was just lack of education, like I said before. So I actually compiled some information that I have found, over my decade of banking, and just information that I had found online as well. So I'm going to be presenting that to you guys tonight. So like I said already, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube, because you're on YouTube viewing this, okay? And if you're getting value out of this webinar, please comment below and let me know, all right? And make sure you can actually send this link out to friends and family. I posted it on Facebook, and they're gonna actually be able to watch this as well, all right? So I'm going to share my screen because I do take notes, so you'll see me in a little bit. Bye. Not bye, I'm still here. All right. Sharing my screen. Go to notes here. Okay. So once again, welcome to the webinar, all right? We're gonna be talking tonight about the biggest budgeting mistake, okay? And I'm gonna reveal that mistake because I actually had no idea that I was actually making that same mistake. And I know that there are other people out there that are just like me, okay? And are budgeting their money the wrong way and they don't even know it, okay? So the concept of budgeting, it's actually really, really simple, okay? So what you do with budgeting is you create a plan, and the whole point is you're supposed to stick with it, right? Well, the reality is it's much more complex than you really think, and that's why you're here, okay? There are endless decisions to be made when it comes to your money in general, right? And we all go through periods of unexpected expenses. So like maybe, you have to go to the emergency room, or you have a child that has to go there, a doctor visit because you're sick. You get a flat tire and then you need to buy a new tire, okay? Maybe, an insurance copay, or maybe somebody needs to borrow money, which is really annoying, but it happens, right? These are all unexpected expenses. Sometimes, okay, there are even periods of inconsistent income, all right? So your paycheck might not be the same all the time, okay? You might have taken a vacation, you might have taken an unpaid vacation, or you might be, in a different type of industry where your paycheck, might not be consistent, all right? So there's one thing that people do in budgeting that is really costing them money. And the reason I know this is because, like I said, I've been guilty of it. So tonight, I'm going to reveal the biggest budgeting mistake that 80% of Americans make, okay? And I'm also going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks that I personally have used to get myself out of that living paycheck to paycheck, run around kind of life, okay? So I'm going to list here, all right, the 4 subjects of tonight. The first one is going to be the biggest budgeting mistake revealed. Second is going to be 7 common mistakes. I don't know why I'm capitalizing everything. I'm just going to start lowercasing now. You might miss while budgeting. Okay, number 3 is going to be the importance of planning ahead. And then finally, I'm going to give you some extra tips and tricks, not tips and ticks, tips and tricks. Okay. Cool. All right, you ready? Here is the biggest mistake that people make, okay? People think that tracking is budgeting, okay? And I'm going to tell you guys what the difference is. So the biggest mistake they are budgeting, okay? I'm going to explain the difference. So here it is, okay? Tracking is simply keeping track of all the money that you spend throughout the course of whether it's a day, a week, a month, a year, okay? And it's a bookkeeping exercise, and it's designed to help you realize where you're spending your money. So the goal of tracking is really to help you establish a baseline for spending, okay? So I'm going to say what the goal is, all right? So the goal of tracking is to help you establish a baseline for spending, okay? And budgeting, okay? When you're budgeting, you're looking at what you've tracked and you're simply looking for patterns throughout, all right? So what budgeting does is it's supposed to make you ask yourself, how can I reduce spending in this particular area, okay? So budgeting, why do I keep doing that? How can I, speaking in reduce spending. Got my nails back on if you haven't noticed by my lack of typing skills in this particular area. Okay. Another thing budgeting does is it allows you to set goals for what you'll spend money on before you spend it. Okay, it makes sense. So simply put, tracking is not budgeting. All right, tracking is for after the fact, meaning that you already spent it and the money's not coming back to you. Okay, so here's the thing about getting your money in order. All right, it's only going to be as effective as you are, because you need to make the decision that you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck and you're tired of checking your balance. And, you know, when you check your balance sometimes and you're not properly tracking and budgeting, sometimes you'll go and it'll be a lot less than what you thought it was. I mean, this should sound familiar because this happened to me all the time. I used to go, you know, I go out shopping or whatever and do whatever I'm doing. And then I would look at my balance and I'd be like, oh my God, I just spent how much? All right, I'm going to talk about ways to avoid that throughout this as well, okay? Because like I said, this is me too, right? And you're not alone, all right? So once I realized that I was making this huge mistake when it comes to budgeting, I knew I had to make the decision to change it. And not only change it, I had to keep at it, all right? So I'm going to let you guys know what I did, all right? So here is what I did. Okay. So what I did was I sat down and I reviewed all of my budgeting categories, because you want to put all of, you know, your spending into different categories. For example, food, rent, utilities, gas, okay? So put your spending into categories. And I'll give some examples like I just did. So food, rent, etc. Okay. So if you currently aren't using a program to do this, like if you're just simply writing it down every month and you're not tracking it like on a system, okay, like a budgeting tool or something like that, all right, which I highly recommend, then you're going to need to dust off your notebook, okay, get your pen, and you're going to need to go and collect your monthly statements. Because something that's cool about having like a budgeting tool is you can actually link all of your credit cards, all of your bank accounts, and you can link it all. And what it's going to do is it's going to separate it and put it into those different categories for you. And you can actually see where you're spending and what you're spending, right? So after I put all of my spendings into categories, okay, I put all of my debits and credits as well. Now, I've been in banking, so debits to me is when money's coming out, all right? I know there's some accounting people. So when it comes to accounting, debits and credits is actually opposite. So when I'm saying debits, I'm saying money that's coming out, okay? So money that's coming out and money going in is crediting, okay? So once you do that, okay, what I did was I added up everything by category. So add everything by category. Okay? So from that point, I determined what categories were being underfunded, okay? And I tried to see if there were any patterns to my overspending, which is a common problem for most people. It was a common problem for me, and it still is sometimes. And in particular categories, such as eating out, that's another huge overspending thing that was a problem, and it can still be a problem sometimes, certain months, all right? So what I did from there is I created a working budget for myself, because you want to have a budget and you want to be able to track with a purpose, all right? And that's to make sure that you stay within your boundaries and the boundaries that you create for yourself, okay? Instead of causing yourself a headache. Oh my God, I remember all the time I would have such a headache because I didn't, plan all of my spending out and write everything down. I didn't do that the right way, okay? And the company that I'm partnered with currently has a fabulous program if you aren't using currently like a budgeting program or a budgeting tool, all right? And you can actually create budgets for yourself within that program, okay? So let me catch up here. Create a working budget for yourself. Okay. So overall, tracking is a good thing, but remember that tracking is only one part of the budgeting process, okay? So number 2 here is 7 common mistakes I'm not going to take the rest of that. I just want to get to it. Okay, so when you're creating those categories, like I said, when you're putting your, your different utilities or your rent or whatever it may be, okay, so when you're creating those categories and you're trying to figure out your budget within each category, there's going to be some common areas that are missed because they might not come up as often, and they might not even come up monthly. That might be something that's more of an annual type of spending, okay? So number 1, car insurance. Okay, now I pay my car insurance monthly. I know there are some people that pay annually, so that's why I put it on here, okay? Also license fees. And license fees, that can include just getting, when you have to get a new driver's license every 4 years, or like registration on your car, getting your car inspected, all of those things, okay? Because they're commonly missed when you create a budgeting platform for yourself. Okay, number 2 would be home insurance for those of you that own a home, and property taxes. And this is if it's not already escrowed within your mortgage. If you don't know what that means, then you probably don't own a house, so it doesn't matter anyway until, maybe I'll put that in a future one. Your mortgage already. Okay. Number 3 is going to be activities for kids. So if you have kids, I feel like a lot of people have kids, okay, for kids. Activities would include, things like maybe summer camp or school expenses, like field trips, lessons, like if they do piano lessons or anything like that. Those are going to be added expenses every month, and you might not think about those things, okay? This is one of my favorite ones. Holidays and birthdays. We don't think about this stuff. I didn't, when I was creating my budget for myself, and I was reading an article way back online, and I actually found, something that had brought holidays and birthdays to my attention. I was like, oh my God, I don't even include that in my budget. And that's an added expense. Like, you really need to make sure that you're tracking that. Something that I do, I have a calendar on my iPhone. So I'll put everybody's birthday that I need to remember. I'll put everybody's birthday on my calendar. That way, when that month comes and I'm budgeting maybe for that next month, if I'm changing a few things, depending on whose birthday, or if there's a holiday that's there, then you know it's coming and it's not going to surprise you. All right, so number 5 is maintenance. Oh my gosh, I spelled it right. Cool. All right, so this would include taking care of your car, health, your health, not your car's health. Okay. So now with taking care of your car, that could be like an oil change, rotating your tires, if something goes wrong on your car, like you want to make sure that you have money set aside for things like that. And that was something that my parents never taught me how to do. They always said, what if something happens? But they never showed me, how to create a savings account and how much money I should put into it every month. They just would say, well, what if something comes up? It's like, okay, well, you're going to teach me? Whatever. Doesn't even matter. You know what I mean. Number 6 is family travel. Okay, so this could be vacations, weddings, anything like that. Again, something we don't include in our budget, right? Another thing is emergencies. I feel like emergencies come up a lot more than we really think. So you want to make sure that, you have, maybe let's say you figure out what all of your copays are, okay? Like on your car insurance, for the emergency room, and maybe even a couple copays for a few doctor visits, and include that in a separate budget. All right, so there's another little tip for you. All right, so like I said, let's face it, okay? We probably forget most of these because they're pretty boring, right? Unless if it's like a vacation or maybe a wedding, maybe that's exciting, if it's in an exotic place. But those forgotten items can really throw a wrench into your finances if you aren't prepared for them ahead of time. So like I said before, make sure that you're working them into your budget before that bill arrives in your mailbox, okay? Or even track it on a calendar, or on a calendar on your phone or something like that, okay? Now, number 3 is planning ahead. The importance of planning ahead. Okay. This is a major part of getting yourself out of living that paycheck to paycheck. It's not really a lifestyle, but it is for some people, I guess you could say. It's not a very good lifestyle. So when you can simply plan ahead of time for what expenses may come up throughout the month and the year, this is going to keep you on top of your game towards your bigger goal, okay? So you want to start by looking through last year's bank statements and credit card statements, or even last month, if you want to go back in the month. And this is going to show you exactly what you spend and where you spend it each month. And this is so you can build those amounts right into your monthly budget. Like, if you have your statements sitting with you and your credit card statements, you're going to know for a fact, oh, okay, well, I shop there all the time, or oh, okay, I need to buy that prescription, or I need to, take my son to the doctor every year. I need to remember that, I spent that. It's going to be common things, okay? So it's going to include entertainment, anything like that. So it's great to have those statements from previous years or previous months so that you can refer to it when you're creating your budget for yourself, okay? So start by looking at last year or last month's credit card and even bank statements. If you don't get your bank statements online, I highly suggest it, because here's the thing, okay? I know getting them in the mail, some people, are stuck in their old ways and they like to get them in the mail. Well, I don't know if you're like me, but I like to get things electronically, because then I can, keep them within my phone and they won't get lost. I'm always afraid of losing important papers, so I always like to get stuff online. So if your bank offers getting statements online, I highly suggest you do it, okay? So, all right, this is gonna, like I said, this is gonna show you exactly what you spend right? Because that's what you need to know when you're making a budget. So make sure that you pull those things out, all right? I also suggest writing down the expenses, like the car insurance and stuff that I talked about before, on a calendar. That way you're visualizing your bills, okay? So don't just write down, you know, the holidays and stuff like that. Make sure you're writing down your car insurance and all those other important things that cannot be missed. All right, so write down important bills on a calendar so you are visualizing those bills. Okay, and I know a lot of this might seem like common sense. Okay, it might be like common sense to some people, but for a lot of people it's not. Okay, because a lot of people look at their finances as one big mess, okay? One big pile of bills and a big mess, and they don't even know where to begin. They feel like they're so caught up within their bills that they don't even know where to begin to even fix it. So with the information from this webinar, as well as other ones that I have done and I'm going to be doing in the future, I know for a fact that my suggestions can help you sort through it one step at a time, okay? And if you have any questions, all right, you can definitely inbox me or ask me anything, and I'll be happy to answer it to the best of my ability, okay? So overall, you want to review those expenses and estimate how much money you should be setting aside each month for them, all right? Because if your budget seems too tight, then you're going to have to figure out a different way to either bring in some more additional income, which is something that I personally had to do, or if you're okay with cutting some expenses in other areas, such as maybe eating out or anything that's entertainment related, like going to the movies, if you do that a lot, okay? There's definitely some different ways to cut your budget. But if you're like me and you like to do those things, those entertainment things once in a while, okay, then you're going to need to create another source of income, all right? And here's the thing. I know it can be really, 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 really hard, but you have to make changes with what you're currently doing in order to really change the outcome of it, okay? Otherwise, you're going to continue in this same cycle, all right? And I'm going to write that down. Ooh. You have to make changes to what you are currently doing in order to change the outcome so you don't get stuck in the cycle. And that cycle can be never ending, right? And you know, some people have even said to me, oh, but I get a raise or I get a bonus every year. Won't that help? Or I get a tax return, okay? Here's the thing. We tend to make up, we as humans, okay, tend to make up for that raise or maybe that bonus. We tend to increase our spending, okay? So then before you know it, you become accustomed to it. So you have to create good habits now while you can. Okay. Finally, number 4, okay? And these are going to be the final tips and tricks. I got a couple good ones in here too, all right? I'm going to do a lot of typing here, all right? So, one of the things that I had mentioned before, excuse me, in my previous webinar, was to open a separate bank account. And that is to open a separate bank account for your bills. And some people can really find this helpful. This is something that I personally like to do. I like to keep my, you know, spending, my savings, and my bills all separate. Because then, you know, to me, it's out of sight, out of mind. So that brings me to the next one, which is direct deposit, which I've also mentioned on a previous webinar. But with direct deposit, okay, so it's like once you have your budget, you can split your direct deposit amount into multiple accounts. So once again, out of sight, out of mind, okay? Now, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but sometimes, you know, you have major bill expenses that can happen all in one month, and they can happen like a few days apart, and maybe your paycheck can't cover them both. You know, maybe you have to save from your first one. So if you notice this, okay, you want to call your credit card company or the bank of whoever either has your credit card or your loan or whatever it may be, and you want to see if you can change your payment schedule and spread those expenses out more evenly, either throughout the month or throughout the year, whatever it may be. But never be afraid to call and ask, okay? Because the worst answer that they're going to say is no. They're not going to be like, oh, well, you called and asked, so I'm going to have to add $50 to your bill this month. Like, no, they don't do that, okay? They're just going to be like, no, that's not possible. So major bill expenses all in 1 month or within 1 week. Call the credit card company or bank and ask for, I'm going to call it a due date like change, because I feel like that'll make sense to you guys instead of doing like banking terms. Okay, here's another big one. Okay, get rid of the debit card. I know they're super convenient, okay, but you want to try to use cash only. This is going to allow you to visualize it, okay? Just like those bills on the calendar, you're going to visualize yourself handing somebody money and seeing how quickly you can really spend that money, because like I said, while debit cards are really convenient, we can get swipe happy. Okay, that's what I like to call it. So you can get swipe happy sometimes, and then like I said before, you go to look at your balance and you overspent without consciously knowing it, and that's really, really scary, okay? And I know that's happened to some people. So I would suggest getting rid of your debit card and using cash only, or keeping the debit card just to pull out your cash for the month and then putting it away, or maybe having it for emergencies or something like that, okay? Now, this last thing is called the half payments method. Now, this is something that's really cool, okay? And this is something that I actually used, and it helped to get me back on track. So I'm going to type it all out, but first I'm going to explain it. So what you do is you pay half of the bill in the beginning of the month, and then you pay the other half when it comes due. Okay? So pay half the bill in the beginning of the month and the other half when it comes due. So I'm going to like type this out and give an example so that you can actually see what I mean, because I know it might be confusing. That's why I love to type on screen though, because then I can actually show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so paycheck number one. Okay, we're going to say your paycheck number one equals $600. Okay, now let's say you pay half of your car payment, which your car payment is going to be, we'll just say $300. Okay, so half of car payment. So half of 300 is 150. Okay, so the total left that you have from that is 450. Yeah, I did my math right. Okay. All right. And then paycheck number two for the month. And you may need to, you know, edit this if you get paid weekly. Then you would just add the weeks up, or however you wanted to do it. You know, you could even pay it in the beginning of the month and at the end, just like this. Okay. So paycheck number two is $600. Okay. And then you pay that other half, which would be another 150. So total left again is going to be 450. Okay, now this is where it's going to make sense. Okay, so versus paycheck number one, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. Okay, versus paycheck number one equals $600. and you pay no car payment, okay, so then you have $600 left. Whoa, not $4,600. Okay, and then paycheck number 2 equals, again, $600. And then let's say you pay that whole car payment, which I told you guys was $300, right? So then you're left with $300. Okay, and doing it this way that I just showed you, it's going to make it easier to manage depending on the person and how you set up your budgets. Because when money's left over, like if we didn't pay half payments, okay, the money right here, okay, the money right here, the $600, it could be absorbed throughout the month with spending, with more entertainment, okay, with maybe more eating out, or just being wasteful in general, okay? So doing it this way can be easier to manage. Money is left over. It can be absorbed with monthly, I'm going to say monthly overspending. Because then you're not really visualizing it and you're not seeing it. You just see that you have so much money in your account and you might just spend it and then you won't have enough to pay your car payment. And we don't want that, okay? So that is the webinar, all right? But like I said earlier on the webinar, okay, the company that I'm partnered with and our really, really, really cool money program and products, they're really outstanding, okay? And I, as a person, have personally used all of our money products, okay? And I'm going to tell you right now, they played a major, major, major fact, okay? They're probably the reason why I was able to not only budget my income, but I was able to actually add an additional income as well. So if you've watched my previous webinars, you know that, it all started from working part-time on my business and then full-time at my corporate job, right? Until I was able to supplement my income to go part-time at my corporate job, which I'm at now, and work full-time on my business. And I was able to do that in less than 6 months, right? So with that being said, our top of the line products are, you're going to be able to do a lot of really cool things. So I'm going to type out some really cool things you're going to be able to do. So you're going to be able to consolidate your debt. Not debit. Consolidate your debt. All right. So we offer a software that allows you to view all of your debits, not beds, in one place. And it's going to provide you a strategy. Oops, what did I click on? Provide you a strategy to pay them off quicker. Maybe I should say faster instead of quicker. All right. And another thing too is managing your money. Keep doing the capitalizing thing. I'm just going to go with it. So you can actually create a budget inside of the software, and you're going to be able to keep track of where your money is being spent in real time, which is pretty cool. Right? And I think this is the most important thing, all right? It's convenient, right? So our money program is going to analyze your spending by accessing your bank account or credit cards or whatever you attach, okay? So you're still going to be in control, and you can add or edit anything at any time, which is really cool. So they're going to analyze your spending, but leave you in full control. Also, security. This is a huge thing because there's so much scamming out there. Like, Ugh, these poor old people. They come in the bank all the time with these letters saying, I won the lottery. They told me to deposit this check. I'm like, well, did you play the lottery? No. Okay, well then how did you win the lottery? They're so funny. Anyway, okay, with security. So all your personal and financial information is going to be encrypted. Excuse me, encrypted and transmitted, okay, adhering to the highest level of secure data transfer available within the industry today. I know that's a lot, so I'm going to type that. So all personal and financial info is encrypted. I'm just going to type that. Like, that's good, okay? So as well as our complimentary credit education, which I talked about in our last webinar, okay, if you are at a point in your life where you're financially a mess, all right, then I'm telling you right now, these products and services that we have to offer, you're going to finally be able to feel confident about your financial future, which is a huge thing for me. Oh, let me get back to myself. No point in me talking to my notes, right? Okay. Hey! So I really hope, you know, that the value that I provided, okay, has been valuable to you, to your life, to your business, whatever it may be, okay? And if you have any more questions regarding the information that I gave you or about the company that I'm partnered with in general, okay, or maybe somebody invited you to this webinar, you need to get back with them or get back with me, okay? And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. You know, there's tons of ways, tons of programs that can help you to budget, all right? But I have personally just found, as well as many other people, that this program that I'm enrolled in currently, you know, has gotten me to the point where I need to be with my finances, and it set me up for an awesome financial future, okay? So that is the end of the webinar. I didn't keep you guys too long, of almost 45 minutes. So I hope that you guys have a great night, okay? Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube and watch out for next week's webinar, all right? So I'm going to be giving you guys some more financial information, so just watch for that on Facebook, all right? Well, I hope you guys have a good night. Once again, make sure if you got value from this, make sure you comment below. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.